Hello, my name is Taryn, and I'm a part of Unit 7 Group A, and I'm going to be talking about qualifying claims using counter-arguments and other perspectives. In order to create a sophisticated argument, there are two things that you need to think about. You need to make sure that you are recognizing complexity in an argument, and also you have to make sure that you're not oversimplifying, but instead you are generalizing the argument that you are trying to make. Now you might be thinking, how do I create a sophisticated argument? Well, the first thing that you need to do is find complexity using the acronym WYSIWYG, which stands for what you see is what you get. Then you need to break it. This means that you need to go further into the text and find more that you can, and not just find what you see, but you need to think of all the ambiguities about the text and go from there. Then you need to avoid oversimplification, which means that your claim shouldn't be something that you can find on a bumper sticker or a Hallmark card. It should be something that has meaning and that can be easily backed up. You should also avoid generalizations and be specific in what you are writing, especially in the evidence and analysis. This is the most important part of your text, and without it, there's really nothing to write about. What to keep in mind when you are writing these kind of claims is that you need to go deeper than the obvious. This is like what I said earlier about the WYSIWYG. You need to see, find what you're looking for, and then go deeper than that. And also you have to be very specific with what you're trying to say. Your reader doesn't always know what the topic that you're talking about, so you need to be very specific and explain everything that you're trying to convey. Also, you should be asking the question, so what, after every sentence that you write to give more complexity. If you cannot answer the question and you find the answer in your response, then your essay is fine and you don't need to keep going. But if you are able to answer the question and you see that you haven't already written about it, then you need to keep going, and that means that your essay is not complex enough. One thing that we use when we're writing is absolute claims, which is something that we really need to avoid. These include always, never, every, none, all, completely, absolutely, and without question. If you are struggling for how to not use these in your essay, you need to think of qualifying language and how to use that in your argument. You should also place yourself in your response. If you are saying that everyone is doing this, not everyone shares the same experiences as you. You should also avoid making accidental tertiary claims, which is when you say you or we in your writing. It includes the writer in your response and actually weakens your argument. These are a few questions that you can consider when you're writing about clarity. Are you getting your point across? Is your reader fully understanding what you are writing about and why you're writing about it? Logical order. Do the sentences flow and build on the previous point? If your sentences are choppy, your reader is not going to understand what you're trying to prove. Flow. When you read your sentences out loud, does the paragraph as a whole make sense? This goes with the logical order question. If your sentences are not logical and chronological, then your reader is going to get very confused very fast. Rhythm. Are there changes in cadence in your sentences? When you're reading it, does it sound awkward or weird to read out loud? Sound. Do your sentences emphasize certain sounds? Sometimes you want to do this in your writing to emphasize the point that you're trying to make, but sometimes it'll make it confusing to read. Interest. Does your sentence sustain your reader's interest? If you are writing on and on and on, your reader is going to lose interest very quickly and not want to keep reading your essay. Tone or voice. Do your sentences create an overall tone that is appropriate to the message or purpose? If you're using language that is not appropriate, then your reader might get very confused. Alright, so the last thing that we're going to talk about is when writing a list, and usually this is pretty easy, but sometimes there's a few things that you need to look out for. The first thing that you should consider is the rule of 3. Your list should have at least 3 subjects in it, and this is pretty simple. Just make sure you have 3 things that you're talking about. You should also be using parallelism, which means that you have the same elements of language. This is nouns and adjectives. Your list, if you want to make it a little more complex, should be adjective, noun, and adjective, noun. This is usually the easiest way to do it. And you also want to make sure that you consider the order that is in your list. If you want the most important things first, make sure that they are first. Or if you want maybe it chronologically, make sure that it's chronological. Also, you should note that if your lists are more complex, meaning you have more than just an adjective and a noun, you should use semicolons to break up the phrases, because if you're using commas, it might get a little confusing. Alright, that's all I have. Thank you so much.